Hi, welcome back to a brand new video of the Public Individual Program. Public Individual. Welcome back to the uh, Targeted Individual Program, Targeted Experience. I have to say that my brain just got a brain fog. I was just so livid and so upset over this shit. This that I'm going to show you. And again, I just want to understand STIs, understand, me as a black person, why I get angry at these things, because they don't do this to white men and white women, right? Or even white children. They do it to our black men, to our black women, to our black children. And so we must understand the mindset of these people, right? And how their department make excuses for stuff like this, how they cover for these officers that dehumanize and mistreat black people on a daily basis, and most of it does not go reported. And the ones that do are reported are the victims who is intelligent and brave enough to come forward and expose these crooked racist cops for the shit that they do. Because I tell you what, even the black police officers, those black Sambos motherfuckers, and yes, I'm gonna say those black Sambo motherfuckers on the police force, on the predator police force, that would stand by and see this happening and think it's okay. Well, if they think it's okay and they have sons and daughters, then they should feel that it is okay when a racist pig cop does this to their children, or even their family, their fathers, their mothers, their sisters, their brothers. Because things like this is what we should be angry at, but we don't get angry at this shit. We don't get angry at it. We accept it. No more. We cannot be accepting and tolerating this shit anymore. And if this don't make you mad, doesn't matter what color you are, then when it happens to you, don't complain about it. Chalk it up and say, hey, you know what? I support the cops. I support the predator cops. Just say that. Because that's what they are. Make no mistakes about it. Let's play the video. And shout out to the Sergeant Curtis, even though he kind of pisses me off also, because he's always talking about finding that line. There is no line when it comes to stuff like this. You should be angry too. You should be calling these cops out. Who is a former police, you should go to those precincts and say, you cannot treat people the way that you're treating them. Okay, because I'm gonna show you guys another video when it was a white suspect that they know is armed and dangerous, and they treat it as if it's not as a threat, and the cop gets shot in the face. But yet they got a black man in handcuffs, and this is what they decide that they're going to do to him.
September 9th, 2022. Jacksonville officers are conducting a narcotics investigation. They take a subject into custody by the name of Ronnie Reed. They do an initial search on Reed and find nothing, and then they decide to level up the search.
Ain't supposed to. Huh? Man, pizza for clothes, though. Took your clothes off. We took your clothes. Not like that, bro. Not like that, man. Weird, man. Not like that. I went to search your drawers, he started jumping up and down. No, I told you to take me in the back and cuff my nuts. You can take one and two. I don't want to cuff you. You want to take in the back? Man, ease up, man. Let's loosen up the pants here. They already loose, bro. The belt, I'm buckling all that shit, man. Okay.
This is in public, what they're doing to this man. Dehumanizing him in public. Well, they have to, they have to block out all of that because they're showing his private part.
Okay, I don't want her to look at your genitals.
Now look,
let's go over here.
and there's a female cop there.
Light,
and this is what they decide to do to this man.
We got light. Come on, alright. Nothing's gonna go inside of you, alright? But we have to make sure you don't have anything else.
I've been on many of these types of operations and searches. As you're seeing this, you see a somewhat jovial exchange between the subject, Mr. Reed, in custody and the officers. However, we can't get away from the fact, and I look at this from a sergeant's mindset. If I am on the scene, this joking and jovial behavior, we still have a person in custody, and what we're doing right now is we're in a Fourth Amendment situation, which is extraordinarily serious. This is protections of a person's right against unreasonable search and seizure. So from the sergeant perspective, what I'm seeing here is we have to be very, very careful that we don't cross over that line.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing what he's saying. He said, as a sergeant, right? But yet, these cops, they have a sergeant. They have a precinct commander, right? They have a supervisor. And in no circumstance, this should be acceptable. In no circumstance, this should be acceptable. But as long as it's a black man, as long as they have some suspicious thing in their mind, you know, because there's always going to be some drug thing, whether you're walking down the street, some drug, you know, or he might be selling drugs. Don't even know, but just because the way he looked. That somehow in these, I can't even call them human beings, you know, because they're not. You know, in their mind, somehow that they think it's okay in front of a female cop to pull this man pants down, expose his penis in public, as if the Constitution to them doesn't apply to us. And I keep saying this: Negropeans better wake the fuck up, because it's only going to get worse. The Supreme Court already ruled that now they can stop you on the basis of your race, or I should say your ethnicity. Why do you think it's come? What do you think? You see, and the Negropeans here in New York, they think, oh, we live in New York, it's a liberal city, so we okay, we this and that. The very same liberals are doing the exact same thing to you and I. The very same liberals are using coercive psychological tactics, are using cognitive warfare on us. The very same liberal is denying you and I our rights to defend ourselves against crooked racist cops like these, predator cops like these. If you don't understand white supremacy, as Neely Fuller said, everything you think you know about white supremacy will only confuse you. And you have the Sambos within our community who, because they are trying to elevate within the ranks, they would allow this to happen. They would not step forward. They would not say this is wrong. That they're willing to cost the taxpayers tens of millions, sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars to settle lawsuits, when training your police officers in the law, in not violating a person's rights, will save the city hundreds of millions of dollars each year. So you see, they're not willing to do that. But what they are willing to do is let these officers violate our rights every single day. That's what they're willing to do. Okay? Let's continue.
You gonna lean on my car? Lean forward. Oh, man, come on, man. This is, no, stop. You're gonna lean forward. Bro, you're gonna lean forward. Bro, listen, bro. You're doing too much. No, I'm not. Nope. I just told you nothing was going to be put inside of you, but you got to let me look.
It don't matter. You put your hand between your butt. He's going to clinch up.
He's clinching hard. He's got something up there.
Oh, he got something up there. Watch.
Stop. Put him against the car right here. That's up in his ass. Probably.
Look at that.
I mean, he's clenched so hard. Hey, listen, you finna stick your finger in my ass. No, I'm not. You're right. Listen, bro.
Look, I hear somebody in the back there. Let him do it.
Yeah, they're going to do it in the jail.
No.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to do some shit like that, take him to the jailhouse and then do it in a private situation. This is atrocious. This is the dehumanization of black men. And like I said, as black men, we're going to have to stand up. Some of us are going to have to sacrifice ourselves to put these people in their place and said, you are not going to do this to us anymore. We are not going to do it. That when you come at us and you disrespect us in that matter, understand that there are going to be grave consequences for your asses also. That's why I said, as black people, put your children in self-defense class. We are willing to send our children and put them in the army, tell them to go in the army. We applaud them. We take pictures of them in the army while they go in and fight the wealthy people's war, losing their lives, not for the freedom of those people in those nations, right? But for the capitalist mental illness of greed, corporate greed, profits, while murdering millions of people across the globe. We're willing to do that, but we're not willing to put them in self-defense classes so they can defend themselves and protect themselves against these criminals that have a gun and a badge, right? But we're willing to send them overseas to die for the capitalists, right? Who is lying, who is creating destabilization across the globe and sending your sons and daughters to die, talking about is for peace. I want you to, like I said, y'all need to go and learn about cognitive warfare. Go and learn about psychological manipulation. Because it's only going to get worse. It is only going to get worse, and Negropeans refuse to listen because of their religious belief. They want to believe. You think if this was to happen to my son, to my daughter, I would not be livid? Black men, we're going to have to, like I said, screw the money. Our children deserve better. Our children and our future descendants and generation of children deserve better. Because these people are training their children to become much worse than who they are today. And so that's something that we have to understand and realize. They're taking away our rights. Why? Because they understand that they've created a docile trait within us as black people to continue to accept this sort of behavior. And this is they're getting their training from the people who are above them. As like I said, you don't change the culture from the bottom. You got to replace the leadership at the top. Replace all of them. All those who are, I should say all of them, but those who continue to have their officers act in this manner is atrocious and it's ridiculous. These people should not be police officers. They're predator police officers. They should not be on the force. Okay, now here's the interesting thing about this part right here, is that these guys are saying that they had a drug sale, not from the suspect that they tried to push their finger up his anus, right? But a different suspect, okay? Right? But yet they give the takedown to arrest this guy, who there was no sale of narcotics that, you know, for this. I mean, this is policing. This is what these people, you know, you understand the insanity of it? When I talk about the system and the system as a whole, that if you think of the system as a person, the dark triad personality traits, all these different psychopathic and sociopathic personality traits within that person, that's who the system is. That's who the police departments are across America. These are the individual psychotic, sociopathic, dark triad personality traits in thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of these police officers across the United States, period.
We realized we hadn't recovered those specific funds, the funds used for the transaction between the initial suspect and Mr. Reed.
Okay, so you said the initial suspect and Mr. Reed. So Mr. Reed was not involved in any drug transaction. Understand that. Okay? So instead of going to the suspect that they did bought drugs from, they went to the suspect who they didn't buy drugs from. This is insane. But these people rationalize these things. They rationalize these things in their sick mind. See, law enforcement in this country is not about solving crime. It is about creating crimes. It is about creating criminals, along with poverty. I talked about this, along with environmental warfare, lead poisoning, other sorts of, environmental poison, I should say, as a whole. Right? And when I say this, here's the thing. Go look it up. Right? Roundup. Roundup is a pharmaceutical chemical right? That is found in that they use in different types of products, right? You find that more black women in cities, urban areas, have more Roundup in their blood than migrant female workers who work on the farms, right? That have, that have these industrial pharmaceutical chemicals. So how is that? How does that happen, right? How does that happen? Where you have the pharmaceutical drug Roundup in the majority of black women in cities. How does that happen, people? Right? So again, when they take away our ability to defend ourselves, they can abuse us, mistreat us in any which way they can. They can get us to abuse each other. They can lie to us. They can get us to engage in warfare against each other. And religion is a tool in which they use. They have well infiltrated the black churches. This is why today the black churches do nothing for the black community. They just take the money. That's all. The billions and billions of dollars each year that they collect. And instead of doing something construction of it, they spend it on themselves. These pastors, these church members who are within the pastoralships, they spend it on themselves. Because their job is to take from us. Not to do us right, not to give back, not to build up the community, right? Not to help poor people, as they like to claim Jesus said. They always talk about Jesus, but when you tell them, well, what did Jesus say? He says, when I was hungry, you fed me. When I was without shelter, you gave me a place to stay. When I had no clothing, you clothed me. They don't like that part, right? When you start, particularly these MAGA Christians, particularly when you start telling them that stuff, when I was sick, you nursed me back to health, they don't like that part at all. But here's our biggest problem as black people, is that we don't want to know who these people are, their psychology. Right? We don't want to know their psychology, to who they truly are and why they can do what they can continue to do. Because of our ignorance, because of religion teaches us to love everybody. They don't love everybody, but they got you dumbass believing that you should love everybody. They don't love you. They don't love you, and the nigger peons driving around in license plate and have, we are all one. We are all one humankind. No, we are not all one humankind. Okay? No, we are not. Like I said, you go look at China. They talk about China being communist and whatever. But at least China is feeding its homeless people. China has built housing for their homeless people and given them jobs in terms of employment to clean up the facilities that they live in. Giving them a monthly income, right? To keep them, oops, sorry, I dropped my phone. To keep them off the streets, right? This is why you hardly see any homeless people on the street in China. Because China gave them affordable housing. Gives them jobs. Right? Give them mental health counseling. Do you know in China, they don't pay for health care. Right? But dumbass Americans and dumbass people who live out here in the West, they will blame China. Well, China's taking our jobs. Did China own the factory that you worked in? Or was it an American company? Or was it an American corporation? Does China own the financial system of the West? No. But somehow they've got you believing that it's everybody else's fault except for the American. See, that's American corporation. That is how cognitive warfare works. It's to have you believe in something that's not true. Right? And to embed it in your subconscious mind that you can't even recognize what's going on in your subconscious mind because you have no clue. You're not aware. You're not conscious. All right? So, like I said, once you understand certain things, once you have knowledge about certain things, they know that they cannot manipulate you in the way that they used to. So they're gonna try to use everything more, every other aspect to try to control you even more. because now they have to isolate you, because now they understand that you know what's going on, so they don't want you to awaken the minds of other people. Why? Because that's how revolution starts. That's how revolution starts. When the masses of people begin to see their true reality, and to see how those at the top have engaged in warfare against them, right? To steal their future from them for greed. This is what they don't want. I understand what's going on. And like I said, always look within the black community if you want to see any type of psychological experiment going on by this white supremacist system. Right? Always look within marginalized community, poor communities. This is where they do a lot of their experimentation, because they believe and they think that we're not powerful enough, we're not strong, we're weak. We don't have the resources to investigate, to look into what's going on. I understand the way that they think.
And so I don't believe who was involved in the conversation, but I remember it was discussed. Well, Mr. Reed must have the money. It just must be hidden on him somewhere.
And they found nothing on him, because you heard him say
I just believe he hadn't been searched for the funds.
And this was a separate, because I know funds were retrieved from the initial suspect. So
there you go. You see what I'm saying? But yet, why are they looking at him for funds when there was no other drug sale that was going on? Listen, I'm not a cop, all right? But I could be a better detective than these motherfuckers. All right? If I retrieve money from the original suspect that I bought drugs from, why am I going to somebody else that I know I didn't buy the drugs from that person? Why? Based off of a hunch? But this is what they do. They go fishing all the time, hoping that they'll catch one. But for the one fish that they catch, they violate the rights of the 999 the 999 person just to get that one person. That's 1 out of 1,000. And they're willing to take that risk every single day, violating our rights. And because it has become so frequent, we become adjusted to it. And we become to accept it. Right? This is how they condition us. And then that conditioning after decades, when we have children, because that is trauma to us, we pass on that trauma to our children. And they become even more adjusted to the ill treatment, the mistreatment, the disrespect, right? The oppression. So they're thinking further ahead to a point in history when our descendants, right, will be so well adjusted to the ill treatment, to extreme poverty, which you see is going to happen, that they will create a nation of people within a nation who have been totally docile, who doesn't have not only the will to fight, but the inability to fight, based off of genetic traits that was created through the conditioning of their parents, their grandparents, their grandparents' parents, and so forth. Don't think they're doing this just because they think far further ahead. See, we just think today. That's it. We don't have no cognitive ability to plan ahead, to say we need to start changing the mindset of our children, so that when we are not here anymore, that they will at least have a fighting chance, right? A fighting chance of standing up for themselves, or even defeating this system as it continues to oppress them. And that's what we should be teaching our children, because they're teaching their children to further oppress our children. Understand what's going on. Anyhow, I'm going to leave the video like that. Shout out again to Sergeant Curtis. Give him a subscribe. I love to subscribe to people who, even though I may not agree with a lot of things that they say, but if they're speaking the truth about certain things, I will subscribe to them. It's just a click of a button. That's all it is. Okay, I don't care what religion you are. If you are speaking the truth about certain things, you're going to get a subscribe in me. All right? So, talk to you guys in the next video.